Welcome everybody to today's Thriving Thursdays. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today with Vincent Merk. Vincent Merk, for those of you who don't know him, but I guess that's very few, is a senior lecturer of intercultural management at Eindhoven University of Technology. He's also a long-standing consultant, trainer, and has been working in the fields of intercultural management, also diversity and inclusion for many years. So Vincent, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much. How are you, and how is the current situation regarding COVID-19 with you in the Netherlands?
Well, you know, yeah, I'm fine. I mean, okay, that's fortunately, yeah. No, I mean, we've had this lockdown in the Netherlands as well for about 3 months. And this is what we had in the Netherlands, which was called an intelligent lockdown. That means that we were actually able to move around freely. We didn't go very far, but we didn't have this restriction like there was, for example, in France, where they couldn't go more than 1 kilometer away from the houses. So we were completely free to go places. So then in this respect, it was interesting because we had in a way, some kind of a luxury lockdown, I must say. Personally, I was still able to do my usual thing of running, walking, and gardening. So, and of course, everything was online. So work was online. That's for sure. There's a big change.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and in terms of your writing on LinkedIn, I noticed you had a very nice post around this idea of social distancing. Mm-hmm. But we also have this sort of twist on it in terms of socializing at distance. Yeah. But could you tell us maybe, because this is something that we talk about a lot in terms of intercultural communication, going back to Edward T. Hall, how do you see the current social distancing?
Yeah, good old E.T. Hall and the proxemics. This is what we're talking about, the proxemics. Indeed, interesting. I just observed what was going on the street, and at the Netherlands is a quite egalitarian culture. Then I would expect maybe people, I'm older, gray hair and everything, I would expect people maybe to give me right away, but it's not the case. The younger people just go and that push you away, I mean, figuratively. So I was just observing that, and that kind of created this kind of a thought for me of writing about it, of seeing the social distancing which is imposed to us, and the fact that we need to combine that with the other side of the story, which is also what you call distance socializing. Okay, so we have social distancing on the one hand. This is the way we behave on the street, the way we are imposed to behave with in the Netherlands 1.5 meters distance, and the distance socializing, which is the other part of the story, which should also develop. I think it's very important that, I think it's our mission as interculturalists, that we make sure that this also happens. And I've seen that myself with my students, PhD students, of which I'm a coach, and this importance of keeping in touch, keeping contact online, but still that they know we are here, we are there for them as well. So the one does not go without the other. I think this is important, and that's created this kind of a rationale for me to combine both, to compensate the one with the other.
Yeah, so it will give us interculturalists really a sort of a very unique new relevance when talking about proxemics and how we should observe that. Another article that you wrote has to do with this old idea of VUCA that we hear a lot about, and a lot of people are talking about the current situation also sort of being a more extreme version of the old VUCA. But you have quite a new take on VUCA that you've written about, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was preparing this mini congress for SIETAR UK back in mid-November last year. And doing that, I came across this new VUCA. We all know the old VUCA, of course, and the one used created by the US military, of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And I came across this new VUCA, and the V stands for vision. I think this is important. We need to have a vision to move ahead. Understanding, trying to understand what's all going on at the moment, difficult at the moment. And the next step was clarity. And I think this is also a mental process, something we should go through, make sure that we manage that, have a clear picture of what's going on. Difficult as well because we don't have the transparency, I think, in the news, checking the facts, checking the fake news. We need a lot of transparency from our governments, from our authorities, medical, sanitary, the economy. We all need that to understand the thing, have a clear picture. And finally, this agility, this is this buzzword. You find agility everywhere. I have this friend that write to me and he said, why don't you also write about the software agility? I think, fine, but this was just a little bit too much. I thought, let's keep it on the human relationships, right? That's enough. So I certainly make some kind of a border what there was agility about, and this is indeed the way we should be flexible. I think this is the way this is on us, the more physical aspect as well of relationship building. Where this distancing should be get smaller, obviously, and we can still move around, have some kind of contact, socially, as human beings. But I think this agility is the key thing as well, and this is really us, like a physical action that we have to take. The others are more like mental, theoretical, and agility is something we should actually deal with as humans.
Okay. Because I mean, there's also the sort of argument for talking about mental agility, which, you know, for us working in the world of sort of intercultural or cross-cultural management also refers to this idea of, you know, shifting between perspectives. So I also like the idea of that in terms of linking in with the other three sort of mental components, because it sort of it adds to that as well.
You know, we're in a crisis, so we need to do something. And I often refer to we all know the etymology of crisis. This is Greek, but in Chinese it means danger and opportunity. So I think this is important for us. Now we need to see the opportunities. We do that on the economic side, certainly. We also do that, of course, on a daily basis as professionals, as family members. But I think we also should do that on a larger scale, and see all the opportunities we can create, and all of us together. And these are nice words, and I realize that. But this is start with ourselves on a small basis. Family, friends, society, etc.
Vincent, and what opportunities do you see specifically for the field maybe of intercultural management? I know I've recently had some emails from American universities saying, oh, you know, a program that deals with intercultural management is incredibly valuable, particularly in these times. So it seems that there's, you know, at least an increased interest in this idea of being able to manage effectively intercultural relationships. Do you see other opportunities for the field of intercultural management?
I think not only opportunity, but we have a mission, I think, here. We have a mission as interculturalists to explain things, make people understand. I come back to this VUCA thing, and that we have a vision maybe as interculturalists, that we try to make people understand that. And I think this is our mission. Explain things, respect, in full respect. Explain that now, just on a very simple daily thing, that much communication now will be online. There is no going back to the only on-site. I think of education, you're also in education. And yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. On a professional level, make sure that we explain things a lot. That's I think it's really important. I see a lot of people getting kind of lost in this world at the moment. And I think we should do something in this respect. The field is also shaking at the moment because we're also affected by this online communication, this all online. I see that in lots of webinars I participate, see the issue we all have. And I think it's our mission here to explain, show that the paradigm has shifted now from what we had, what our unilateral communication, which was, I think, of the SIETAR congresses we had, it was all one big celebration, one big party. What is it going to be in the coming months? We have a few SIETAR congresses lined up. SIETAR Polska was already postponed to next year. We have SIETAR Switzerland coming up in October. We'll have SIETAR Malta in May next year. So I'm really looking forward to that, to see exactly as an observer, but also as an actor, I think, in this respect, to see how things are going to evolve. Just one example, we were very much dealing with gamification the past years. And I was myself also much involved in this Lego, this serious play, Lego.
Serious play.
And we had in Leuven and in Paris, we had the ICM, we had this the workshop I had with my colleague Renate. And I'm trying to, this is something you really do on site. I mean, you can do it, of course, online, everything, but this can be the test case. Gamification, for example, how it is going to evolve as an activity of intercultural management or intercultural learning, I should say here. So this is one interesting to observe.
Vincent, I see I have 2 comments in the chat, and please, if you do have any questions, you can either add them in the chat, or I can also unmute you in another minute or 2. But I'll put in the new version of VUCA into the chat in a second. But one of our participants would like to know why the C does not stand for curiosity, considering that this is something that also was, important in terms of a willingness to connect by means of observing and asking questions.
Good question. Of course, it's an acronym, so I didn't make it up. Okay, let's make it clear. I just used it. Okay, I think the question is simple in a way. That curiosity is present everywhere. If you have a vision, if you try to make a vision, you need to be curious, intellectually curious. Okay, by trying to understand things, you also need to have a curiosity to go beyond your border, beyond your knowledge, beyond your own norms. So as for curiosity, in clarity, I would say there should be some curiosity as well, and in agility, maybe it's a simple answer, but I certainly see curiosity present everywhere. This intellectual curiosity we should all have. I think this is it's present. It's implicitly present.
Okay, maybe I'll come in with another C-related question. How do you see or consider the role of compassion in leadership in these, let's say, new VUCA times?
Certainly. We are a V could have been, it was volatility, the first V. It could have been vulnerability, because we are very vulnerable in this respect.
Yeah.
So let's put it this way, and let's not hide it, because everybody is vulnerable. Our politicians, our scientists, our medical staff are also very vulnerable. We all learn from one another. So I think this is, again, this V could be anything. It's just a choice you make. And I think, again, this vulnerability of leadership, the leader being vulnerable, I think is a good leader, being the coach, not claiming to know it all, and showing that also to his team, her team. I think this could be certainly a V. But again, this vulnerability, I think, is present everywhere somehow. Just like make choices for other words.
Okay, but we could come up with several variations for this.
Oh yeah, you have acronyms, you name it, you have them, and I think the VUCA is one of a very common one. I thought that's what I thought it was interesting to create a new one. Yeah, I didn't create it. I just used it. Yeah.
We could turn it back to front.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe I hope we won't go into the old VUCA, because we are now still in the old VUCA, and I think we need to move to that new VUCA.
Exactly, yeah. Sorry, and that reminds me now, because my question was initially related not to the V, the vulnerability, but also compassion. The question of compassion.
Oh, yeah, compassion.
Do you see do you see the two related, and particularly from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, certainly. Again, we have to be able to show our vulnerability and also our compassion. Trying to understand things is, again, compassion is included in this understanding process, this mental process. You need to show respect, know about it first, understand it, right, and then show respect, compassion, empathy, tolerance. That's all those things, kind of ideal attitude we should all show. to move ahead, to create this vision and move ahead to a new normal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. I see we have another question as well that's related. Thank you from Renaud. Don't you think intercultural misunderstandings or more intercultural misunderstandings could come out of the fact that we'll professionally only be connected online?
Oh yeah. Also, I mean, on a daily basis, I notice that when I'm running a meeting and I'm chairing a meeting, it's very different because people don't know who you're talking to. Now I'm talking to you. That's easy in a way. Thank God. Although the many webinars we have where we all talk to, I don't know, to how many people, and then we're not too sure, are they watching us? Are they, sometimes you have a picture, you don't even have a screen. So certainly, this online communication is a source of many misunderstandings, language-wise, of course, but also body language-wise. We only see half of what you see by the shoulders, that's all. You don't see the rest of the body. Language, face expression, quality of light, quality of sound, absolutely, you name it. I think we all have that on a daily basis. And I've many examples in the past 3 months in which I thought, what is this? What are we talking about? You know, yeah. So this is in a way a simple setting with you and the people watching us that we don't see, but we know they are there.
Thank you for the question. Maybe also related to that, I know that you do a lot of work in the field of trust building in multicultural teams. So maybe if we link this to the idea of sort of the virtual, you know, team, how do you see, or what do you see as some of the key elements in terms of developing trust, and how important is it? Because sometimes, you know, we hear, well, you know, if work is work, if you're professional, you don't need to develop into, you know, trust in that sense.
Oh yes, you do. No, I mean, trust again. This dichotomy between on-site and online. Online, what do we use? We use now, you and I and the other people. No, you and I use 2 senses now. Okay, voice and view. Okay, the others we don't even see them. Okay. So this is even less, just let's say 1 sense, half a sense, something. And when you have a normal communication setting, you use more or less the 5 senses. Sometimes you also taste, feel, hear, touch, all the whole range. And this is, you know, this is to create trust. So I don't believe so much in creating trust on a screen or through a screen. It's possible, okay, because trust is based on many parameters, okay. But if it's only communication, I would always recommend to a virtual team, which I always did before in normal time, so to say, I would always recommend them to meet, first of all, very first on site, I mean, face to face. And so screen to screen is fine, 2 senses, face to face, 5 senses, I think it's clear. Creating trust is difficult through a screen only, unless you know the person from before. You know, client relationships also difficult, because why should I trust you? If I don't know we don't know one another. Some culture, of course, is very important. So, yeah, absolutely. Trust is the key aspect here.
Have you seen an increase in requests, you know, in your work as a consultant and trainer around this virtual component of work? I mean, I know we're practically, you know, overwhelmed with webinars and trainings at the minute that deal with the virtual community, work, education, etc. Personally, have you noticed any sort of change in trends around virtual work?
Big changes. I think we will go back to when it's possible in terms of distancing and in sanitary terms. We will go back to some on-site, but now there's no going back. I see on the education, I see that in the consultants. Much will be done online, certainly, with also quite so many advantages. Like you and I can meet today. You're in Austria, I'm in the Netherlands. Case, there will be a lot of more. I mean, the trend now is certainly towards online. It was already digitalization of education, digitalization of training, of the training world. This was already coming in. That started, but now the 3 past months we've made an enormous progress in this respect, and we certainly need to handle and master all of that. But there is no going back to, certainly not. No. I think there should still be some on-site, again, trust, transfer of knowledge, of practices. But I think this is past. It was already started, so now it's going to skyrocket, take off. And
Okay.
this is my first experience and my own experience as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I see we have another question, thank you, related to trust again, so I'll pick it up here. Maybe I could just ask the audience also, if you're interested in getting involved in the discussion, if you raise your hands, then I'll unmute you and you can, interact with us as well. But here we have the question, do you think trust could be higher if a team meeting, even large ones, had the video pictures of everybody attending instead of just the speakers' videos being on? This is something we've already had a quick discussion about earlier today. So yes, Vincent, would you like to answer this?
No doubt. I've participated in so many webinars, and when I just see this black screen and name on it, I don't feel particularly trust whatsoever. When I know the person, I know what is behind, but I don't know the person. I mean, we have been educated, we've been brought up as communicators, as human beings. Face-to-face means to see the person, no doubt. Again, 5 senses. So not just hearing a voice instead of more, it's certainly very typical, very difficult. And we get used to that. I've noticed in the past 3 months when I started first, I was completely shocked to see all those black screens. And now you really get used to that. And I think it takes another 4 months and maybe we'll all get used to that. But this will not go towards more trust or no. I mean, it's my personal opinion, but I think pretty much shared. I think by others.
Yeah, I mean, I also I find it incredibly important when I'm teaching to have as many of the students visual as possible. But I know that's only possible with some forms of mediums and tools that we're using. So, and I know that sometimes the situation is such that it's not possible to have the visual component. In terms of the chat function, I mean, this is also something I think it takes a little bit of practice in terms of managing, an interactive chat with either, people involved in a webinar, with, people involved in larger meetings. But one of the things that I found as a positive development of that is that for people who are normally not so vocal and maybe a little bit more introverted than the extroverts, I find that that's a really useful way of managing the interaction and getting even more interaction out of those people.
I agree with that. Certainly those who are more prone or more feel more comfortable with written communication, they can use the chat or they can use the question and answer devices, certainly. Others prefer to speak, certainly. That's cultural, we know that, but also very much personality, introvert, extrovert. I think it's nice. So we should not, maybe we are too harsh on that, or those not showing their faces. Maybe I should nuance my propos, certainly my statements. But I think certainly, I think it makes sense. We need both again, written and oral, in a nice balance. Personally, I prefer oral, clearly, but otherwise, fine. No, I mean you're completely right. Written communication is still very important. It should not be deleted. Certainly not. No.
Although somebody has actually made, a very valid point as well in the chat here around the question almost of inclusion when it comes to the quality of connections that some of the participants might have. So if we're using video, of course, there is a potentially exclusionary element to those participants who maybe aren't able to interact with that. There was another question about how you see this in terms of coaching online. Vincent, yeah. I'm not
a coach, okay? I'm a teacher, trainer, and consultant, not a coach. But okay, a lot of people, I still have an opinion about that. A lot of people had started already coaching online anyway. I mean, all the coaches I know, friends doing coaching was very much online a lot already. So I think this has not very much changed. I think they were ahead of others by doing that online already. So I think it could still be done, certainly online. Again, I prefer face-to-face, but I think certain situations are very appropriate to do that online with very little interaction, or more like listening to the person, It doesn't have to be a lot of interaction. An interview, a dialogue, a lot more. So certainly, I think there is much to say about that. And I leave that, of course, to the professional coaches to answer that more. And for me, as an observer here, I would say certainly there is, each medium has also the good old telephone also has a reason, a raison d'être, certainly. So I think we should not, we should try to balance that all. And coaching uses a few of these media, and I think it's very, very adequate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jeremy, I see, has joined us as well and has commented on the fact that, you know, it's possible to use other means to create a better sort of online environment, including backgrounds, photos, chats, breakouts, polls, etc. Yeah, and I think that's really valid. I know we're coming up to the end of the session, but I'd love to ask one question. I think it's very relevant considering the recent developments in the US and sort of these types of responses that are happening all over the world. The question of, you know, the sort of interrelated questions of diversity, race in particular, questions of bias and prejudice are becoming, you know, very, very much talked about at the minute. And I know that you also work in diversity and inclusion. So I would just like maybe to finish off with getting a couple of insights from you in terms of how you think this question of diversity inclusion also at an organizational level, how, you know, how it will develop over the coming months, years.
Yeah, we need, you know, in a nutshell, for me, diversity is a reality, something you inherit. You have an international classroom, or you have a group of managers around you. You're the boss of them, and you have that, and you have to do something with that. And this moves you, this leads you to actually to inclusion. You should develop inclusiveness of this group, of just loose individuals. And certainly we need to be aligned on that. And what the new let's say the new parameter we have nowadays will be also the connectivity, technically, and how can we just make an included group with the electronic means we need to use. So this is one new aspect that we maybe hadn't thought about it before. We all have those video conferences and everything, but now this is the new fad. So I think this is one aspect. Of course, the other aspect of the human aspect of relationships, of creating the right psychological safety, and that people feel safe to exchange, to be themselves, that they feel understood, listened to, and the inclusion, all kind of measures you take with that. But considering this new development now, I think also I have some technical aspect we need to carry to care for. This is new for us. I'm writing an article which will be published very soon now on LinkedIn as well, on this paradigm shift from inclusion to from diversity to inclusion, and then to belonging and well-being, which is the ultimate level. This well-being and extending the paradigm away from inclusion ahead, and then belonging, which is very important. The result of diversity and inclusion is belonging, and that leads you to well-being ultimately. So that will be on LinkedIn sometime in the coming weeks. So this is this is completely, we're in the middle of that, shifting that. And how do we do that? Again, to be aligned, all speak the same language, so to say. And also the new, you speak of emotional intelligence. We all need to have cultural intelligence, and now we also need some digital intelligence. It's also appeared now, the digital intelligence we need as well to be aligned and to create this inclusion and belonging. So there's a lot of work out there.
Yeah, and I guess that's very interesting. I'm looking forward to that, because that brings really all the topics we've talked about together today. Also, you know, together in the sense it's, you know, about trust. It's about making sure that everybody is involved. It's about, you know, making the best out of the situation. I think that this idea of also, you know, digital intelligence is really important. And I know that the more we're faced with it, the more we become also aware of the need to effectively manage it.
they had a workshop at the recent the latest World Economic Forum about digital intelligence. The interesting thing is that we don't all agree on what it is, digital intelligence. So maybe we should first define what that is. But okay, that's another story.
Okay, I know we're way over time now, so I will apologize to anybody who's expecting to leave at 30 minutes past 6 today, but we do have a comment that I think is extremely important to take up here before we leave today's session. Carlos has commented on the fact that, yes, what amazes me is the fact that you're not able to address racism directly and just referred as diversity and inclusion. Why?
Oh no, it's just it's not. It's far. The other things are related. Okay, racism is something that has existed for no, we know that from the beginning of the world. It's and nowadays with the events in the US, which are world events, which we all share and which we all affect us, and we all involved in it. It's now very much on the table. This is part of it. When we mentioned tolerance, insights, empathy, understanding, clarity. I go back to this book. I think having a vision that all implies, in a way, an attitude which would be anti-racist, which would be what we could say natural. Kids, people were born like that. You see, the kids are not racist, and they are made racist later on. Possibly. So for me, it's just again implicitly evolved, and yeah, we could have talked about that more explicitly, considering the events at the moment. I participated myself in a demonstration in Eindhoven. I was not there because I couldn't access, but I was very nearby, and it was very impressive to see these people. Social distancing, and then that gives even more, in a way, more of an impact, I think, than just people only the old way. So I would say that directly to Carlos, certainly this is one of the aspects of diversity and inclusion, and this is one of the key issue at the moment, and this will remain, and we should make sure that it will not be addressed, but not exploding the way it did recently. Yeah. So certainly, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And Jeremy has added a comment: tolerance and empathy are sadly not enough. Structural and systemic change are needed, yep, including getting rid of black Pete.
Yeah, that's for the Netherlands. Yeah, and
I was going to say, yeah, this is although I understand it from the Austrian context as well, but maybe for anybody who doesn't understand it, would you like to briefly clarify that? And I think we'll finish off then here.
Very clear, very quickly. Yeah. The Black Pete is one of the characters of Sinterklaas, St. Nicholas in the Netherlands. A very important celebration, the 5th of December in the evening. 50% of the people celebrate Sinterklaas. 50% of the people celebrate Christmas, but not both. Okay, so you can see it's very important celebration. And the old guy, the St. Nicholas, like Santa Claus, more or less related somehow, has this assistant who is a black valet. And for a very long time, people would not say anything about it. And recently, I think quite rightly, this can be seen as a racist character, because this black fellow is helping the good old man. And you can see there, of course, all kind of interpretation. And myself quite clear on that. If you would now create this character, and for commercial reasons in marketing, you would have the old guy, the old Santa Claus, whatever. And you would not have a black assistant for doing that. Okay, so now the Netherlands is interesting because they are moving now from black Pete to all kind of multicolored Pete's. Yeah, and you've seen the past 4 or 5 years. The black Pete's now slowly disappearing and replaced by those multicolored Pete's. Sometimes they're still black, but also others. So you have gray, yellow, green, you name it, you have them. And I think this is the way kids also enjoy that. And it's not an old tradition at all. The supporter of the black Pete says it's an old tradition. It's not at all. It's about 150 years. Which was made by some kind of teacher at the time. We don't have time for that, but so believe me, it's moving up certainly the right way. And this black Pete discussion, for me, is very clear. It should completely change and become multicolored.
Okay.
And it's moving this way. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I know now we've covered a whole range of topics, but I think that was a very important comment that I didn't want to ignore also in the chat.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for this. And I think this is, exactly what is important, what, we had hoped in terms of starting off the Thriving Thursdays discussions, is that we could really pick up on, what opportunities we can take out of the current situations. And I mean, the situation in the world is changing so fast. There are so many things happening. It's very important to be able to have an open dialogue and discussion. Of course, a 20-minute sort of interview and question and answers is not enough for that. But this is a topic that's, and all of the topics we've talked about today, I think we could spend hours discussing. Yeah.
But others do it for us. So
Exactly.
We don't have the monopoly.
So we're getting a lot of thank yous into the chat. I would also say a very, very big thank you to you, Vince.
Good evening. Bye-bye.